Tashio Rima was still working after the end of the workday. As a Russian specialist, he needed to finish everything quickly so as not to miss the last train. Before this, Kachi had already planned to return on time, so that he could stop by the cat cafe and then calmly go home, but now this work ruined all his plans. Takai, a 28-year-old office worker, had recently started experiencing difficulties at work due to delays and additional tasks. To distract himself a bit, he began frequently going to the cat cafe, where he liked playing with fluffy cats. Finally, he finished work just a few minutes before the train's departure. So Takai ran full speed along the short path to make it on time. But then his gaze stopped on a beautiful cat that was walking nearby. Seeing this, Takai felt happiness and luck. But suddenly the cat stepped forward and crossed the zebra crossing. At the same time, a truck was quickly approaching. Takai instantly rushed to save the cat without hesitation. But during this, he died in that accident. But after a few minutes, Takai still came to his senses and woke up in a house where delicious food was already waiting on the table. He was surprised where he had ended up, because this place did not look like a hospital at all, but the doubts quickly disappeared when a cat ran out from under the table. He himself was the cat he had tried to save, and Takai was glad to see that everything was fine. But to his surprise, he saw the cat rise into the air, a dimple appeared on its head, and it smiled, greeting Tata. Takai said a few simple but sincere words of thanks for the help. But Tessie could not understand what was going on at all. The cat told him that she was actually the goddess of cats, and although she did not need saving, she was still grateful to Tessie for helping her and even sacrificing his life. Takai still could not believe what was happening, even that he had died. The cat god confirmed to him once again that it was true, he really had died. But she still decided to meet him in the other world, because she heard how much he loved cats from those he cared for in the cafe. Takai was happy that his love for cats had reached the top, even to the god of cats. So the cat goddess said that it hurts her to see how someone as kind as he could die. Therefore, she suggested that he move to another world. At first, Takai did not understand what she meant. So she explained that it would be like a journey to a completely different world, not like Earth. Tessie was worried that he had weak endurance and was not sure if he could survive in another world, but the cat goddess reassured him and said she would give him strength so he could live there. She rejoiced when she heard this and agreed to the cat god's proposal. Then she asked how he would like to live in another world. For example, he could become a traveler and fight monsters using swords and magic, or he could ask for something else, all up to his choice. Think about which option you like the most. He did not want to work where he had to fight. He also did not want to work in dubious places, but he simply did not want to sit idle either. So after long reflections about his second life, finally Taichai had an idea to open his own cat cafe in another world. The cat god was moved to tears by how much Takai loves his people. Therefore, she decided to give him abilities that would help open a cat cafe. She gave him the abilities of a tamer, a profession that allows one to tame monsters. Thus, Takai will be able to tame monsters resembling cats, and they will definitely be fluffy. Takai gladly agreed to become a tamer because he really wanted to tame fluffy monsters. Also, the cat god gave him all the skills needed for a tamer and explained that he could check his status anytime by saying the phrase, "status open." Takai thanked her. And then she also gave him a bag. And when Takai opened the bag, inside it was a little different than he expected. The cat god explained, "This magical bag can hold countless things, as many as you want." Also, time inside that bag stopped so he could use it to the fullest. She also put food, money, and various useful things there that she thought he would need. Takai looked into the bag, and suddenly a window appeared before him with a list of items inside. This surprised him a bit. Then he looked into the bag. There was dried meat, black bread, and water. He asked the cat god what the food was like in the other world. She replied that the taste is almost no different from Japanese food. Sometimes monster meat is also used, but unfortunately, the variety of dishes here is much smaller than in Japan. This inspired her with an idea. So she gave Takai a few more specific skills, and Takai thanked her for that. While she was preparing to send him to that world, she thanked Takai once again for saving her life back then. And he smiled, saying how glad he was that everything was finally fine with her. And after that, Taichai found himself in another world. And suddenly he found himself in the middle of a dense forest, which surrounded him on all sides. He remembered meeting the cat god, and now he was in this world, which looked like something from a trendy manga. Now for the first time he thought about what he could do and what he should do next. He remembered his taming skills. He felt a little embarrassed when he got exactly what he wanted, but still, he was happy because he learned what he was capable of. Next, he opened his status to review all the skills he already had. He definitely had more than a dozen different talents in his class, and he also had additional abilities in languages, insight, imagination, and even shopping. Taechai also noticed something like a combination of abilities. To say what all the fluffies like. Moreover, all levels of this skill were also maxed out. It turns out he could easily tame even dragons or other creatures. But at that moment, a shadow fell on his face, and when Taechai turned around, he saw a dragon that was at least 20 times bigger than him, with sharp claws and huge horns. The dragon immediately understood that its prey was to be Taechai. The first thing that came to Taechai's mind was to run away. The dragon unleashed a stream of fire at him, and he ran as fast as he could, acting on instinct. Taechai was scared but hoped he could tame this dragon. At the same time, he himself did not know what he would do with the dragon, as he dreamed of a cafe with fluffy animals, not dragons. Suddenly, someone else appeared from behind the dragon, and it turned out to be another dangerous creature that attacked the dragon, squeezed its neck, and killed it. Tate was surprised when she saw all this, but at that very moment, this mysterious creature felt the presence of Tae Ci, and immediately rushed to him to catch him. Taechai was very frightened and had no other choice, so he immediately used the taming skill on this mysterious wolf-like beast. In this emotional moment, Taechai remembered his entire life, because besides working in an exhausting company, he had nothing interesting. Then we visited a cat cafe. Feel relief by playing with fluffy cats. He liked feeding them, and from time to time, it brought him real pleasure. Taechai also had photos of cats on his phone, which honestly are so cute that you want to immediately share them on social media. Since Taechai loved cats very much, they also began to take some interest in him and even wanted to play with him. Because of this, all the cats loved him very much. The very life he had before death inspired him to open a cozy cafe with fluffy animals and enjoy the peace. But in reality, everything turned out a little differently. As a result, he tamed a fluffy wolf-like creature about 2 meters long. Taechai wondered if everything would be okay, since he used the things of Tommy Men and Paul. And he remembered that he could communicate well, so he could solve everything by talking. Suddenly, he heard the dangerous beast scream that it could not believe how easily it became tame. This creature, which called itself Fennerate, never in its life thought it would have to obey the tamer. Taechai was surprised to hear his thoughts, but still glad that he could communicate with him. Fenmer boasted incessantly that he defeated the dragon with a single blow, but here a man overcame it and even tamed it. Taechai smiled awkwardly, not knowing what to say next. And it occurred to him whether he would be safe if he let go now. And then he noticed Fenver's tail. I looked at him carefully because he was wagging his tail vigorously, and this tail was very fluffy. Taechai was very grateful for this meeting and prayed to the cat god to thank her. Now he truly asked Fenrir if he wanted to become his familiar. In response, Fenrir asked Taechai if he really wanted to see the lonely warrior Fenrir as his partner. Taechai confirmed that this was exactly what he desired. Then Fenrir thought that Taechai looked very weak. It would have been better if he had stayed with him, otherwise Taechai could have become food for other monsters. Taechai was glad that he managed to convince Fenrir and then immediately introduced himself. Fender Astashi, that is what they called him. Since monsters have no names, she looked confused. Then the tamer explained that when a monster is tamed, it is always given a name. This is a common practice. The singer did not understand this before and simply gave up. Later, he thanked Fenrir for teaching him this, as he was a novice in taming, and Fenrir became his first familiar. Fenrir was surprised because he thought that Taechai should be experienced, but still asked him to give him a name. Taechai pondered and realized that he could not give a monster who calls himself a lonely warrior such a simple and cute name. After thinking a little, one name came to his mind, and he named Fenver Luke. Taechai told him that the name Luke means light or something similar, so he decided that it fits wonderfully since Luke has very beautiful and shiny fur. Luke looked at his fluffy fur, and he smiled as if he liked it. Taechai thought that was very cute. And then Fenmer decided that now he would be called Shelby Luke, and this name suited someone like him perfectly. Taechai came to Luke and asked him to take care of him from now on. Taechai touched Luke's fur, and his hand simply sank into it, which caught him by surprise. Taechai had never petted anything so fluffy in his life, so this fluffball was perfect for his first acquaintance. Now let me tell you a little about this world. This forest was located in the southeast of the city of Lorum in the kingdom of Shulkuk. Around it stood a barrier because very strong monsters lived there. Several mages cast many protective barriers to prevent any trouble and keep the monsters in the forest. And if a strong monster still manages to break through the barrier, then experienced and strong adventurers are sent to fight it. But there were monsters against which even the barrier was powerless. For example, the proud lone warrior Fenrir was unique, so only legends and tales exist about him. So before meeting Takeshi, Luke just walked in the forest under the sun, as he always did. And every time he came to the place where monsters usually drank water, the monster would be scared of Luke. They immediately started to run away because they saw a threat in him due to his incredible strength and influence in the depths of the forest. But Luke was already used to this loneliness. It was because of this that he began to call himself the lone warrior Fenrir. He bathed in the water. Then he went outside and shook himself to dry off. Luke looked at his reflection in the water and praised himself, saying that he looked good today too. He was amused by himself. Luke's stomach growled, and he realized it was time to look for food. He hoped to find a dragon today that he could eat. So thinking about this, he carefully jumped from branch to branch, looking for dragons. On the way, Luke remembered that he once heard, some people can cook so deliciously that the food is simply wonderful, but he did not expect to taste anything like that, because he was alone with Fenrir and Yen. Eventually, Luke noticed this place. A big dragon perfect for his lunch, and he instantly rushed straight to the dragon's neck to hunt it. At that very moment, Luke felt that there was a person nearby. He did not like meeting them while hunting, but it was a surprise for him. In the end, Luke came under Takai's control, and he simply could not believe that he was tamed so easily. It made him think that Takai was a very strong person, around whom there seemed to be some strange energy, and he should not be left alone. At first, Luke thought that Takai looked very talented, so he had nothing against becoming his familiar. And when Takai also learned about the ability to act oppositely, it impressed Luke. But still, Takai was interested in Luke. For the first time in his life, someone, namely Takai, did not run away from him as other monsters always did out of fear. Luke immediately appreciated this and decided that Takai was much cooler than those timid creatures. Now Luke hoped that he would be given a name. This happened when Takai offered him to become his assistant. Luke agreed and asked Takai to come up with a name for him, one that was once used by the legendary hermit warrior Fenrir. Finally, he was called Luke. He was surprised and a little angry when Taki constantly touched his fur. Luke irritably asked how much longer he would keep doing that. Once he was the mighty Fenrir, a legendary monster you simply don't touch. Does Tachi have to apologize? Having told Luke that he wants to go to the city and asked if he knows how to get there, Luke assured that he, of course, knows the way. But he was surprised. Why does Takai, being a human, not know how a human city is arranged? Takai pondered this. And he wondered if Luke would believe it if he told him that Takai was from another world. But since Luke was his first acquaintance, he wanted to be honest with him. So he told Luke that he had something to tell him. And after he told Luke everything, now almost everything is clear to him, and what was confusing before has become clear after this. He told Taki that this forest is located very deep, where people rarely appear, and to get here, one must also pass through a barrier. Because of all these risks, Takai was dressed very lightly, not in armor. Takai could do nothing about it, but suddenly realized that he was in the middle of a dangerous forest, so he needed to get to the city as soon as possible. He told Luke that he wants to go to the city, but is worried if it will be okay for such a big monster like Luke to go with him. Luke was not worried and changed his size, becoming slightly smaller than a human. Takai was already about to set off for the city, but then Luke stopped him and asked him to wait. Since he still hadn't eaten the dragon he had hunted, Takai understood this and told him to go eat. And while Luke was eating, Takai watched with emotion as he happily savored the raw dragon meat. Then he remembered that he knew how to cook well, so he tried to use this skill on the dragon meat. He failed because he lacked ingredients like the magical herb used to prepare dragon steak. Luke was delighted and asked Takai if he could also use culinary skills, even if just starting out, because he had heard that dishes prepared with the skill of a tamer turn out very tasty. Answer him, you can argue if he has the magical herb. To find the needed herb, Takai used his unique ability of premonition and found useful things, such as magical herb, enchanted mushroom, and magical flower. Takai went to look for the magical herb, and Luke asked why he needed it. Takai prepared dragon steak using the magical herb and dragon meat. And at first glance, the steak looked very appetizing. He offered it to Luke, and he immediately began to eat, catching the appetizing aroma. And after that, when they ate it, For a few minutes Luke simply fell silent. Then he exclaimed that the dish was extremely tasty and that it was many times better than eating it raw. Luke and Joey prepare and eat dragon meat, showcasing their culinary skills. Soon Luke finished eating his dish. He asked Takai to make a dragon spear for him again, while the necessary materials, such as dragon skin and claws, were still available, explaining that selling these materials could earn some extra money. Takai asked if it was definitely allowed. To this, Luke replied that even he understands how important money is to people, so as a newcomer to this world, he definitely needs money. Takai agreed with this. He gratefully agreed to take these materials, although he doubted whether he would be able to sell them, but still placed them with himself. We put all the materials into the magic bag. Takai was sure that thanks to this, his dreams would come true faster than he thought, and money was needed to maintain the cafe fluffily. Only left to go to the city. Subtachi was rushing through the forest at a crazy speed, sitting astride Luke. And he constantly reminded Takai to hold on tight. It was very hard for Luke to hold on to Luke, who was rushing so fast. This made him remember how 2 hours ago he asked Luke how much longer it was to the city. Luke replied that it would take a few hours. But even after they had walked a bit, Takai felt that the city was not getting closer at all, because he was walking very slowly. So he sat on Luke, not thinking that the city would be so far away if even Luke would need a few hours to get there. During the journey, Luke warned Takai that a monster had appeared nearby, and he was going to take it down. Luke jumped up and killed the large bird monster on the first try. Then he asked Takai to put the body of this monster into his bag to later collect valuable materials. They kept up that pace, and Luke dealt with everyone who crossed their path. After several hours of sleep, both finally reached the city, and Luke reported. Antaki was the second largest city, named Laura in the kingdom of Shulkuk. Takai saw that the city was filled with people. And also near the borders, there were people working in their fields. It was very peaceful here, and Luke noticed that many adventurers and soldiers lived in the city. There is a good view from here, and monsters hardly attack. Takai was glad to learn that all these things, especially the number of people, were very important for opening his fluffy cafe. For now, Takai set off to the city with a plan to first find a place to rest. Luke mocked him, calling him a weakling for looking for shelter first. But they were still near the gates. The guard noticed that Luke had a large she-wolf with him and asked if she was really not dangerous. Takai assured that everything was fine, the animal was safe. Since he had acquired it after all, the guard saw no problem with it. He agreed to let Tessie into the city, but first asked to show identification. Tessie was confused because she did not know what identification was at all. His Japanese driver's license was not suitable here at all. The soldier asked if he had not taken a driver's license with him at all. In this case, Takai needed to have 5,000 coins to enter the city. Takai paused for a few seconds to check if he had the money. So when he examined the things sent to him by the cat god, he found a wallet there. Inside, Takai found 3 large silver coins, but he did not know how much they might be worth. He asked Luke about it, but Luke also did not know their value. Therefore, Takai had to ask the soldier as a last resort. Takai pretended to be ignorant and watched the soldier's reaction when he saw the large silver coins and said he would go exchange them. Takai simply smiled and asked if these options would be acceptable. The guard agreed and took out 5,000 shells and gave Takai the change for 1 large silver coin. It turned out that 1 such large silver coin was equal to 5,000 shells. Also, Takai wanted to ask the soldier if he could recommend any good places to stay overnight. The soldier thoughtfully advised Takai to go straight, then turn left near the Adventurers Guild. There he would find a hotel called Crescent, where 1 night costs 4,000 shells, and the food there is delicious. Takai was delighted to hear this, and decided to check everything himself, and also thought that every child in this world is as valuable as 1 yana in Japan. Now he returned again to Luke, and began to move according to the instructions, carefully looking around to notice everything important that might be useful or needed before opening the cafe. Later, Taika was walking around the city, and everything was good and calm, until he noticed that everyone had stars on their clothes, all because of such a big wolf in the city, like Luke. Taika noticed that there were so many different shops here that he remembered he also needed to buy clothes. Luke advised him to first take care of the proper equipment. To this, Taika replied that he would prefer to have a normal jacket because he felt the cold wind all the way here, sitting on Luke's back. Luke joked that Taika was too delicate. And so they quickly reached the moon, which has the shape of a crescent. But they could not even imagine that the hotel owner would refuse them accommodation because of a big friend who looked like Luke. So he directly told Tate that she better look for someone else and closed the door in her face. Taechai wondered what they should do now, and Luke was angry because no one was hurrying to take seats so he could rest. Taechai decided to slightly change the task, and now is looking for some work to gain new opportunities for his guild. But on the way he noticed a sign with the inscription, Guild of Tamers. Takai decided that they could find a place where living with large familiars was allowed. He thought it was worth checking it out, even if only briefly. So Takai came to the Guild of Outfitters, which looked like an ordinary, unremarkable building from the outside. Hachai entered the guild, but even after greeting, he saw no one there. Even the main hall was dark. It seemed that no one was there. That was when he was met. A friendly and cheerful administrator named Shelty works here. She approached with a smile and asked Takai if this acquaintance of his was the King of Wolves. Takai introduced himself and explained that Luke was actually a Fenrirer. But she only laughed in response and said that it was impossible since Fenrir was last seen several centuries ago. Now they are just legendary monsters from fairy tales. Takai did not even suspect that this was such a famous character. And now he understood why the soldier was so surprised earlier and also called Luke the King of Wolves. He decided not to correct them for now and leave everything as it was. Then Subtachi explained that he had just arrived from the village, so he did not yet have an identity card. Shelty advised him to register with the Tamers Guild. Then his registration card would also be considered an identity document. Takai was glad that he managed to fool her with a made-up story in which Casey supposedly said that he definitely wanted to join the guild. Shelty brought a form and asked him to fill in the registration details. Takai wrote down his name, age, and information about his familiar Luke. He indicated that Luke is the King of Wolves. Luke irritably asked what he meant by King of Wolves. He really did not like being in the company of weak monsters, since he used to be the proud Fenrir. But Takai told him that it had turned out that way. Now Fenrir is considered just another monster from legends. And now Luke also realized how unforgettable and important his presence here was. He liked hearing that and he boasted, "If that's the case, then nothing can be done. Since Fenrir treats me well, it means we are definitely legendary." Shelty advised him to add his skills, but it was not mandatory. Many do not want others to know about their abilities. She also said to write down any goal of his. They also mentioned that there would be quite a few tasks related to battles using his familiars. Takai understood this and pondered. He decided to record skills like cooking and other ordinary ones, but he hid unique abilities because they clearly looked like cheats. He decided to also engage in treatment and healing, and he wrote that he dreams of opening his own café, which would be called Fluffy Café. Shelty read his skills and was impressed that she had acquired restoration skills, which are very rare among tamers. He was asked why he wanted to open a café. Takai replied that he was not very good at fighting, so he dreams of his own café. However, he emphasized that it would not be just an ordinary coffee shop, but a place where visitors could interact with fluffy little monsters. Shelty seems surprised when she hears the word fluffy. Perhaps in this world, they do not even know what it means. In that case, he would have to spread this idea in the world using his own café Fluffy. He was sure, who wouldn't be happy to find themselves in such a fluffy atmosphere. After some time, Shelty brought Takai his own adventure card, confirming that he was now officially a member of the Tamer Guild. It had his name, Takai, his rank F, and the branch Lorem. She added that this card is also his identification, so he needs to keep it carefully to avoid losing it. Besides, he will be able to use this card in other places as well. Shelty said she wants to show us something important, so she asked him to add some magic to this postcard. Takai tried, and suddenly some data appeared on the card. And when he was about to ask Shelty about it, she told him not to show it to her. And this was his official information, which appears and disappears as if by the wave of a magic wand. Takai asked her what this function was for. She replied that this information could be used as a recommendation for clients, and also to show whether a person committed a crime or, on the contrary, to prove to the client that they are reliable. She assured him that nowhere would they force him to disclose this information, and to find a job, he can look at the announcements on the board at the back. Takai noticed that many people ask the trainers to take care of the animals as if they were their caretakers. Therefore, Takai said that since he is unlucky in fights, he will just wait and open his own cafe. Shelty thought that with his wolf it would be a sin not to take the combat mission, but Takai still did not want to risk his life. Then he asked her if she had a place where he could stay with Luke, because they were refused at the hotel they came to. She understood the reason, as Luke was very big. So she told him that the Guild of Tamers could also offer accommodation, only for 2,000 shells per night, which was cheaper than at the inn. Takai thought that was great and immediately said he would like to stay here. Shelty asked how long he planned to stay, and he replied that for now it was 5 days, during which time he would need to find a job. After that, Shelty led him to his room along the way. Takai saw an open garden where dogs were walking. Takai suggested to Luke to play together, but Luke refused because he did not want to be in the same company with people like them. Luke said that a true defense master like him would never play with such a ball, but Taki saw that Luke really wants to try it and will agree if they buy him such a ball. Shelty told him that as long as he was in the guild, he could freely use this courtyard. Takai thanked her for this information, and she replied that it was not a problem at all, because Takai is an important member of their guild. If he needs anything, he should feel free to contact her. But at that very moment Takai asked something painful: why are there so few tamers here right now? Shelty told him that there are probably not that many tamers here, but it is still strange to see that they are here. Since the tamer and his partner skillfully support each other in battle and cover weak spots, but taming strong monsters is not easy, this profession is considered more difficult. Takai also thought so, and was glad that finally someone understood and supported her. She added that this was exactly why she was happy that Takai joined them, and confessed that she really wanted him to stay with them as long as possible. Takai nodded in response. Then he asked her if materials were bought here. Shelty replied that the Adventurers Guild buys materials, and all other professional guilds buy only those materials needed for their work. Takai understood everything and headed to the Adventurers Guild, which was much larger than any other guild in the city. There were always some adventures happening at the reception. Such did not expect that there would be so many people here, and this slightly annoyed Luke. Such stood in line at the reception. When his turn came, the administrator greeted him and asked him to put the materials on the counter so she could inspect them. Takai said he could not lay out so many materials on this counter. The receptionist was surprised because Takai currently had nothing on him at all. Takai replied that all the materials were in his magic bag. To this, the administrator looked surprised and said that such a thing happens very rarely. She asked Takai to follow her, and he understood this tray was indeed much rarer than he thought. He was immediately taken to the team that dealt with sorting, and the boy was asked to lay out all the things on the table. Takai decided to fight the dragon first, and immediately began summoning one monster after another onto the table. Even this large table seemed too small. The team that dealt with sorting was shocked because there were not only many monsters there, but among them were also very strong ones, such as dragons, red wolves, waterfalls, and even platinum golems. Taechai was glad he had not taken with him all the monsters that Luke defeated along the way. After that, the team that was cleaning examined the bodies of the monsters and noticed that each of them was defeated with a single blow. They asked Takai if he had dealt with them all. Takai replied that it was actually his familiar who did it. Because of this, the guys decided that he had a very high rank since such a strong tamer was next to him, although in reality Takai was currently only rank F. Then the boys asked him what kind of animal Takai's familiar was, and he answered that it was the king of wolves. But upon hearing this, Luke immediately got angry. The Takapit calmed Fura and told him to show a little patience, as they needed to sell these materials. Luke immediately melted at such words of support. The people who were dismantling were struck by the fact that Luke has a wolf king who truly obeys him. After that, they got to work, starting to dismantle the monsters and estimate the approximate value of the loot. Dad waited outside while the dismantling process continued. When everything was ready, the administrator approached him, apologized for the delay, and immediately informed him of the prices for his materials. She brought him several sacks filled with gold coins and told him that 3 red wolves were sold for 100,000 shells each. 1 wild elephant brought 130,000 shells. Platinum Galem cost as much as 3 million shells. Altogether, it amounted to 3,430,000 shells. Taechai was impressed, as it was a huge sum of money. Now he had enough money, and the administrator asked with interest if he planned to buy any equipment or something similar. Takai confessed to her that he actually dreams of opening a cafe called Café Fluffy. Hearing this, she smiled. Instead, she was a little embarrassed to see that he did not want to become an adventurer, but she was glad that such a strong tamer would stay in the city, which reassured everyone. She advised him to definitely visit the trade guild later. If he wanted to open his own cafe, Takai listened to her advice, and she said goodbye, promising to definitely visit when the cafe opens. This pleased Takai very much. So he returned to the Tamers Guild, where Shelt met him and asked if he had managed to sell the materials. Takai confirmed that everything went successfully. He said that now he had money to open a cafe, and all thanks to Luke's help. Now he plans to go to the trade guild the next day, but first wants to find a place for his cafe. Shelty told him that the Tamers Guild also has property if he is interested. And since the Tamers have large familiars, there are also plots for them on the outskirts of the city. Takai liked this very much. And he asked if he could look at these houses right now. Shelty replied that he should come tomorrow morning, then she would prepare several options for him. After that, Takai went to his room to end the day. He remembered that today he managed to do a lot, and very quickly too. Now, before looking at the properties, he had the opportunity to inspect the whole house. He went to the equipment store. The dealer greeted him, but seeing the familiar Takai, abruptly stopped. Takai said he could make the usual delivery outside if needed, but the equipment seller replied that everything was fine, and Takai thanked him for the concern. Now he looked around, looked at the amazing gear and soldiers' battle clothing. Then Luke asked why he wouldn't buy something like that if he liked it, but Takai refused, saying it was too heavy for him. Luke joked that he was a weakling because of that. Then Luke noticed something and showed how it looks. On the Tiki website, there was a light jacket, very soft to the touch. And he decided to choose this very jacket. Luke noticed that he looked much better in it than in the usual clothes he was wearing now. He wanted his master to at least somewhat care about his appearance, so this became another reason why Takai decided to buy it. He approached the seller, and he asked if Takai was a tamer, since he had never seen such a large she-wolf with a tamer before. Takai replied that Luke was his important partner. It seemed that the seller recognized Luke as the king of wolves, and such are now almost never seen. He also liked Luke's beautiful fur, and when Luke heard this, he immediately rejoiced, as he is easily pleased by kind words. Since the conversation was already about jackets, Taki took the opportunity and told the seller that he wanted to open a cafe where people could communicate with fluffy little monsters. Hearing this, the seller became interested and said he would definitely visit when the cafe opens. Taki was glad that everything turned out so well. He changed into ordinary clothes and returned to talk about real estate when he came to the Guild of Tamers. Shelty greeted him and wished him a good morning. And Takai asked if she managed to find any places for him. Sheldon smiled and said that she found a simply wonderful place, very close to the Guild of Tamers. It was always crowded here, so the place was ideal for a cafe. But Taki wanted a quieter place, so Shelty next advised him another option, a quiet location near the city wall, almost on the outskirts. Takai looked at the house map. You like the house plan, and you notice that there is a garden and a backyard. This place is perfect for training familiars or other activities, and there is also a private well. Takai thought it was a perfect plot, but Shelty noted that it could be dangerous here because the place is beyond the wall and monsters could attack it. Think about it yourself. Even if some monster appeared, Luke would easily handle it. So he assured that everything would be fine since Luke was with him. He asked to look at the plot now, and Shelty agreed to show the territory and led him out of the city, beyond the walls. Takai saw this house for the first time exactly when he arrived at this plot. There was also a well in the yard. The house looked simply wonderful, and you immediately liked this property. But Luke just came, looked around, and confirmed to Takai. In his opinion, it was also a very good property. Takai wanted to buy this, and Shelty suggested to him to go inside the house now. Takai agreed, and as soon as he entered the house, he was immediately impressed by the incredible design. Shelton explained that everything here is arranged so professionally because it used to be a restaurant, and the previous owner was also a tamer who used his familiar to gather resources. For Takai, this became an additional advantage. Then Luke came in and realized that the empty space in the house was too cramped for him. Luke asked Takai if he really thought that such a respectable person as Luke could feel comfortable in such a small place. Takai replied that in his homeland they say, home is where you make it. Therefore, he was sure that Luke would definitely like it. Hearing this, Luke became embarrassed and began to complain that it was very difficult to communicate with Takai. Takai considered Luke a sundae, that is, he seems cold on the outside but has a soft heart inside. But since Luke is not really human, he was simply a sun. Putting this aside, Shelty led him to the second floor, where the living area was. And Takai liked the room. It was perfect for his bedroom. He noticed that some furniture looked outdated, but it did not bother him. Everything fit. Shelty said that the rent costs $10,000 per month, and to buy this property, Takai must have at least the rank of E-Tamer or higher. Takai agreed to rent for now and asked to prepare the documents. She gladly replied that everything was fine and she would take care of it now. and they should return to the guild to complete all the formalities. When they were leaving the house, Takai looked back and glanced at the house once more. He felt that he had taken one more step closer to completing his Café Fluffy, and everything in this place was becoming whole. Although he still had many things he wanted to do. Meanwhile, Amelia, who works as a receptionist at the Adventurers Guild, was thinking about how she constantly hears various unexpected stories at this job. The most surprising to her was Tessie, who received from a friend the King of Wolves himself. She was sure this indicates his incredible talent, and the guildmaster must definitely be informed about it. She had just knocked on the guild head's office door when Takai appeared. But unfortunately, she could not find her in the office at that moment. When the guildmaster returned, she listened to the entire story about the events and asked where she had been during the visit of such an important tamer. Guildmaster Himiri was very surprised to learn that someone had managed to tame the King of Wolves. She perfectly understood how lucky they were to have such a strong tamer in their city. Amelia confirmed that everything was exactly as she said, and when needed, Mari was nowhere to be seen. Then Mari told Amelia that being the head of the guild did not suit her very well because she was bad at negotiations. But Amelia knew that this was not true at all, as Gimari was very talented. She had been excellent at magic since childhood, quickly reached the position of guild leader, and even received the title of wise traveler. But even so, Gimari said that administration was not her thing, while the administrator Amelia considered it a waste of true talent. Although Himari said that having a wolf king as a familiar was interesting, she also mentioned that Amelia asked her to talk to that man about cooperating with the Adventurers Guild, because even the monster materials he recently brought to the guild were of very high quality. Gemari's facial expression became uncertain, and it was clear that it bothered her. So she simply said that the matter was already closed. When Amelia asked why, Himari replied that she just didn't want to ask that guy to come to the Adventurers Guild. Because if they kept persistently asking him, he might become the leader of the city, so now they should just let him stay here. After that, Amelia agreed with the guild master and returned to her work. Meanwhile, Emery was not really saying what she thought at that time. She was still thinking about it because she had once fought the Wolf King, and he was a very strong opponent for her. And if the guy managed to tame such a beast, he definitely had an unusual profession, just like her. Moreover, she did not expect such a strong guy with the Wolf King to be so calm, and it seemed very strange to her. She wondered if she would ever meet him in the city. And if that happened, she would prefer to meet him as a traveler, not as the guild leader. She was sure they would understand each other while looking out the window. Now let's return to Taichai. For him, it was the first day in his new home, and he was glad that they finally managed to do it. And he found himself exactly where he was soon to build his dream cafe. Luke noted that all this became possible thanks to the monster she caught. Takai thanked him for such great help. Luke asked Kachai not to touch him anymore when he wanted. But in fact, he liked it until Takai strangely started sniffing him. Then Takai said that first they needed to deal with household things, and when Luke asked if he planned to buy something new, Takai replied that he might buy, but first wanted to try one of his unique skills. It is called creation. Lup had never heard of such a convenient skill, and Takai decided to just try to use it, activating the unique ability. And then a block appeared in his imagination, volumetric, like a 3D picture, which he could change as he wished. Taichai imagined a round table for the center of the store, low and with legs shaped like cat paws. He chose a nice base made of soft wood, which had a pleasant natural color. When everything was ready, he completed the creation of the table, and it appeared right before him. Takai learned that thanks to this ability, creation, he could make anything he imagined in his head. Luke was impressed that such incredible skills really exist, and Takai had already started creating other things. As a result, I made a comfortable beanbag pillow for Luke so he could rest. He asked Luke to try, and he hesitantly placed his chip on the bag. And surprisingly, he liked it so much that he just lay down on the beanbag chair and thought about how soft and comfortable it was. Takai continued to create new things, for example, tables, chairs, and cushions. Next, we install shelves and all other necessary items. They like partitions and also toys for cats, for example, balls or soft toys. He also installed a cat house that occupies an entire wall. And finally, he installed spiral stairs in the middle of the table. He finished decorating the house by hanging curtains on the windows, and with that, the work was done. The sun was already setting. He was so absorbed in the task that he didn't notice the time passing, so he called Luke and said it was time to go. Luke still didn't really want to be a leader. But Takai said they needed to go, otherwise Shelty might start to worry. He added that the next day they would go to the living room and return to the Tamer's Guild. The next day, Taechai came and finished arranging the living room, but Luke felt that it had become a bit cramped. But he forgave him because he got a bean-bag chair. Taechai was glad that Luke liked the bean-bag chair. But suddenly his face changed. He was surprised, remembering one of the most important details. He said that although it was a cafe, there was no sign there yet. Luke at first did not pay attention to this, but Taechai explained that it was really important. So he used creation magic and came up with a sign for the cafe Fluffy, a place for rest and relaxation, which operates from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Now everything looked wonderful, so the teacher installed a doorbell. Since the cafe was quiet and small, he did not want it to operate around the clock. Now the question arose, can he open his own business without permission? To find out, he decided to contact the trade guild and asked Luke what he wanted to do. Luke replied that he was bored of listening to various explanations. So he simply decided to go take a nap on the bean-bag chair. Taechai thought that was normal. So he went to the city to take care of other matters. He entered the trade guild, where the administrator greeted him and asked what his purpose was. Taechai introduced himself and explained that he came to get permission to open a cafe where people could communicate with his familiars. She did not understand why people would want to communicate with monsters. Because of this, Takai might get a little upset, because it seems that no one understands what fluffiness is. So at first she explained to her that even if they are monsters, they are soft, fluffy, and pleasant to the touch. They can be petted, which is very soothing, and this is often what people need. The receptionist liked the idea of a cafe with fluffy animals, and since Takai was a tamer, he was allowed to open it without any problems. She, however, noted that to operate all monsters, it is necessary to register them in the Tamer's Guild. Peachy understood why this was necessary. Then she started talking about taxes. They vary depending on whether it is a private store or a commercial one, and where it is located. Takai replied that it is a private store he rents on the outskirts of the city. She informed him that for stores on the outskirts, the tax would be 5% of total sales, and Takai considered this quite profitable. Now she asked him when he plans to open the cafe. But at that very moment, Takai was left speechless, and he remembered that he still needed to prepare something. The registrar said to return when the date is determined. After that, Takai just ran to his car and loudly said that they have a serious problem. Luke wondered what problem could be so serious that it even deprived the lone Fenara of sleep. Takai replied that they did not have enough fluffies to open a coffee shop. Luke was not too worried about it and did not consider it serious, but Takai was very anxious because it was really important to her. Then Luke asked him why he simply did not go tame monsters if he was a tamer. So Takai went to the Tamer's Guild to find out from Shelty about fluffy and friendly monsters. Shelty replied that there really are berry rabbits in the southwest, but usually only beginners hunt them. Takai thanked for the information, decided to find out everything immediately, and went to look for Bari the rabbit. Luke said that berry rabbits are very agile, so how was he going to catch them? Luke suggested that he could go himself and bring them, but just imagine, Nate Takai refused, all for the safety of the rabbits. Then he heard something rustle in the grass, and when he looked there, he saw a cute, small, and fluffy monster rabbit. Takai was touched seeing how cute this monster was. He immediately guessed that this was probably the berry rabbit, while Takai admired the rabbits. Luke noticed that it was strange because Bari's rabbits are usually very cautious, and here the king himself approached Takai directly. Takai understood that it was probably because of his title. After all the fluffies respect him very much. So everything turned out in the best way. Now he had tamed a berry rabbit. After Takai tamed the berry rabbit, she thought to name him Zephyka because he was white, soft, and cute. He wondered if he could communicate with the Bari rabbits if he used his speaking skills, but Luke replied that the Bari rabbits were not yet smart enough to talk. However, if Takai was patient, they would definitely learn to speak over time. Takai was glad to hear this, hugged Luke, and called him very smart, stroking the fluffy fur. Luke asked not to touch him so easily but he was interrupted, and Takai finished speaking for him because he was the leader in this matter. Luke laughed, and Takai joked that he had already learned it by heart because he had heard it so many times. Then Takai noticed that even more berry rabbits were approaching him. So he tamed them one by one. He noticed that there were berry rabbits of different colors. He named the white female rabbit Manaka and took special care of the brown one. He really liked being near the fluffy animals. But Luke became worried and asked how many exactly he was going to tame. However, in the end, Takai still became calmer, and he returned to the city with a large catch of berry rabbits. The soldier at the gate was surprised and asked what was happening with such a large group of berry rabbits. Takai simply replied that he was a tamer, and all these were his subordinate animals. Therefore, he was confident that there would be no problems when he showed his guild card. The soldier replied that everything was fine if they were acquainted. But one thing troubled him: the number of tamed monsters depends on the level of a certain skill. Takai did not expect to be asked about this. And the soldier's question was quite logical, but he could not just say that all his skills were at an infinite level. So he explained that he could tame so many monsters because they were small and weak. The soldier doubted this lie, and Takai replied that it was true because they still could not know what their actual level was. The soldier understood the meaning in his words, and Takai managed to get out dry from the difficult questions. But later he was still questioned when he showed Shelty his rabbits for 10 berry, and she was very surprised and bombarded him with questions. When everything was already settled, Luke gathered all the berry rabbits. Stay away from his poof under any circumstances. It is already a habit of Takai to constantly occupy this poof. Soaking made another berry rabbit, and they also liked to play with other toys. Luke was happy, and the berry rabbits looked very cute. Now only the menu remained to be invented. He noticed that tea here was considered a luxury, but still did not want to serve just any drinks. So this time he decided to use his unique skill, shopping. Thanks to this, the cat god could make purchases for him from 5 points at once. Takai saw a pen and a sheet of paper appear before him. So he wrote down what he needed: powdered sencha, her old gray tea bags, instant coffee, cookies, and chocolates. He finished the list and wondered if this list of the missing would really reach the cat god. While he waited, Takai decided to compose a menu for his cafe. At the start, he chose green tea, coffee, and black tea, and for sweets, cookies and chocolates. At that moment, the bag appeared behind his back on the table. The bill amounted to 2,800 shells. He wondered how he would pay for it. So he took out the money, but it suddenly disappeared as if dissolved into the air. Takai thanked the cat god for everything, because he knew there was always someone to support him. From now on, Takai would live in the cafe, and Shelt would visit her a little later. But he had one problem left: there was no bathroom, and in this world only wealthy families could afford a bath. Now Takai himself led Luke to the bath. Although Luke resisted and did not want to be so obedient, Takai tried to convince him. And when he saw that the berry rabbits really enjoyed the bath, Takai noted that the berry rabbits behaved better than Luke. Lup blushed and quietly approached to say goodbye. And although he did not like it at all, he would never let the newcomers surpass him. Takai found this very cute in Luke. After he washed Luke, he thought of making such a bath where one could bathe in hot water, since the cold was soon to come. Then he remembered Shalti's words: even if you rent a place, you can change it a little to suit yourself. There is nothing wrong with that. So he built a separate bathhouse for himself, using his ability to create things. Luke asked what kind of building it was, and Takai only replied that he would definitely like it here, and went into the bathhouse. Inside, everything was neatly arranged, and made as well as you wanted. He really wondered where these taps were connected, but he was not worried about it. The main thing was that everything worked. Luke asked what he was going to do with the hot water. At first, Takai showed him the bathtub and suggested trying it by filling it with hot water. But even before Luke could try, the berry rabbits intervened in the game, and it made him angry, and immediately got to work, not allowing others to take the initiative. Takai was very much loved here. At that moment, Luke felt the hot water and relaxed more than ever before. Lup said that after such a luxurious bath, as a true Fendra, it was no longer fitting for him to lower his standards, and cold water no longer suited him. Takai was glad that he liked it. Luke said that Takai is eccentric, so at Luke's request, Takai now has to prepare a bath for him every day. Takai did not even expect that Luke would be so happy about an ordinary bath. And now he also went into the bathroom to relax a little. But here Luke jumped right into Takai's bathtub because he thought it was unfair. Why was the whole big bathtub only for Takai? Luca felt better here and completely relaxed, and Teki decided that he really liked it. When did they already take a bath? Kachai opened a cafe and told Marshmallow that he would be the leader of the Berry Rabbits team and would make sure they did everything correctly. Marshmallow took responsibility, and Takai told everyone that they could play with the guests when they arrived, and meanwhile do whatever they wanted. 3 hours passed, and the buyers were still not visible. The day was already approaching noon. Takai himself understood that the first visitors would not appear immediately, since he did not do any special advertising, but simply hung up a notice. Therefore, he could only hope that the number of people in the cafe would gradually increase. Suddenly he realized that this was probably how people who rent out their cars feel. At that moment, the doorbell rang, the first clients came to Sema. It was a trio of adventurers. Takai invited them in, and the guy from the travelers' team said that he noticed this place when they were returning to the city, so they decided to rest here a bit. Suddenly the archer noticed the berry rabbits and the wolf in the cafe, so she quickly grabbed her arrow. You immediately take a step forward to stop her, and explain that they were his assistants. She was surprised and did not expect to meet monsters in such a place at all. Takai understood her feelings well, and she was still wondering why there were familiar faces in the cafe at all. Takai explained that this is the Fluffy Cafe. Here visitors can meet and chat with cute fluffy little monsters. He greeted, introduced himself, and said that today is his first day at work, so we are his first clients. The shooter was happy with these words and introduced herself. I am Nina the Huntress. And as for the other guy, he was gray. And finally, there was the sign of Aries. Takai explained to them that here you can place an order and pay right at the counter, but currently there is a rule, no more than 1 drink per person. While they waited for their order, they were allowed to communicate with the monsters, and they could choose any seats. Nina agreed to this. At first, when she was placing the order, she asked him what the difference was between tea and black tea. Taki replied that the letter T usually means green tea, which was often drunk in his homeland, and it was very refreshing. Ingris and Nina decided to try iced tea. Then Nina asked what Aries ordered. Aries replied that he chose black tea. And Nina added that they would also take some chocolate and cookies. Takai gladly agreed to this. He took 700 turtles for each drink, and for the apartments, 300 turtles, so the total bill came to about 2,700 turtles. He suggested they get comfortable and wait a bit until instructions arrived. Gris, Nana, and Aries each settled into their own place, while Nana curiously examined the berry rabbits. Earlier she had hunted them, but now, seeing them from another side, she realized how truly cute they were. Gris noted that if you forgot they were monsters, they looked very much like little animals. Gris was also curious who this big wolf was, but at the same time he couldn't help feeling fear towards Luke. Then Marshmallow approached Nana. This made her very embarrassed, as she had previously aimed her bow at him and now felt guilty, not knowing how to act properly. She petted Marshmallow, and Gris was playing with another berry rabbit and was happy to hold them in his hands because usually small animals ran away from him. Nina joked that in fact Gris was very kind at heart. Then Uri spoke and Gris reacted too emotionally. Gris assured that everything was fine and such things don't happen every day, so this was an experience he found interesting. Then Nina asked Aries because she wasn't interested in playing with these berry rabbits, but Aries refused, explaining that she just wanted a cup of tea and to rest. Soon Takai tidied up. A few chocolates and cookies, plus 2 iced teas and 1 black tea. And when they tried their orders one by one, everyone was surprised at how smooth the letter T turned out to be. They tasted great together with the extremely delicious cookies. Gris even doubted whether the cookies were really sold so cheaply and was sure there could be a 1-digit error in the price. Takai assured that the prices were correct. And he was glad that they liked it. He promised to treat them again. Meanwhile, Owen enjoyed her cup of black tea. Suddenly, a very fast rabbit ran up to Owen, and it surprised her. Owen looked around to make sure no one was watching her. Then she gently petted the cute berry rabbit. She really liked the softness, but she was too shy to show her kindness. So Owen said she just let the berry rabbit sit on her lap while no one was watching. Takai noticed that the clients were satisfied with the service. It was hard to believe that they had never encountered the mundanity of this world. He thought it would be easier for them to relax if Niliam provided the same conditions. But he was worried because he was not very good at cooking, and due to constant busyness, he almost always had to eat at fast food stores. Takai thought it was worth trying to cook something simple and became interested in whether he could buy ready-made food using his shopping skill. He also decided to take a walk around the city to look for good ingredients. Later, Takai walked around the market and saw many shops with vegetables and other goods. He decided to use his bargaining skill to ask the cat gods for rice, since it was not available at this market. Then Loop called him. He said he was hungry and asked Takai to buy him a shashlik at the fast food place where they were just being prepared. Takai also wanted to try it because he was hungry too. So he bought meat for himself, and Luke asked him to buy some for him as well. Takai ordered 1 meat stick for Luke too. And when they said the dish was quite tasty, how did Luke react to this? Luke replied to Takai that the food she cooks is much tastier than this. This made him understand something he had never even thought about before. Luke asked Takai to make him another dragon steak. Now he decided to buy some ingredients and put them in a magic bag. But at that moment Luke felt someone's presence, and a person approached them who said it was cool to see such a big dog. This person turned out to be Himari. She introduced herself and asked Takai if this dog was his partner. Takai noticed that this girl looked like a high school student, but still politely introduced himself first. I am Takai Tamer. But this dog was actually a wolf, and his acquaintance was a flamingo. I am often asked if it is possible to pet him, but Takai asked Luke if that was okay with him. Luke refused to let the girl who called him a dog pet him. Maria immediately understood that it was a no. And Takai apologized, saying that it was just how things were. I decided to marry Smile, and that was normal. Since she heard familiar voices, she realized it might be awkward and did not want to impose. Takai asked her if she wanted to pet the fluffy animal. He invited her to his café, Fluffy, where you can play with berry rabbits. He was sure she would really like it. Himari was very surprised when she found out that it was Takai who ran the café, Fluffy, which the administrator Ignilia had told her about. She followed Luke and saw the café, Fluffy, which actually looked more like a cozy little house. Right after Himari entered the café, Fluffy, she was enchanted by the calm and cozy atmosphere of the café. She liked playing with Rabbitberry, and Takai only dreamed that Luke would be as kind and friendly as those rabbits. Then Himari was surprised when she counted all the familiars and said that Takai had as many as 11 familiars. That was truly impressive. Takai just laughed in response. She said that the shop seemed not to have opened yet and asked if she could stay here. Takai replied that it was all right. And there were few people willing to pet the monsters, so he always gladly welcomed fluffy lovers here, regardless of the time. He realized that this might have sounded strange, so he immediately assured that he had no hidden intentions. Mary laughed and said that he was funny. She said that it was all right because she was actually stronger than she seemed and took out her magic wand. Takai realized that the girl was a mage, and Himari called herself just an adventurer, hiding the fact that she was actually a guild master. Then he realized that he had called her unexpectedly, so she probably didn't have time to have breakfast, and she agreed with that. Hearing this, Takai asked her to wait a little because he wanted to bring something simple for her. Himari agreed to wait and decided to play with Bari the rabbits. Meanwhile, Takai went to the kitchen and, using his shopping skills, quickly found all the necessary ingredients for pasta with Italian dressing. He also used creation magic to make special dishes that would perfectly suit the fluffy cafe. Now he boiled the pasta, heated the meat sauce and water, and arranged the salad on a nice plate. He liked that this place increasingly resembled a cozy cafe. And a little later, he returned with the order and said that it seemed she was having a good time. Mary really loved playing with fluffy rabbits that looked like berries. She remembered that they were so fluffy and had such nice fur that she even felt sorry for constantly hitting them with magic during tasks. Takai brought the order and advised to eat while the dish was still hot. He hoped she would like it, and Himari was happily waiting to try it. As soon as she took the first bite, her eyes lit up, and she immediately said that it was really tasty. Takai said that it was nothing special, just ordinary pasta. Himari said that the pasta turned out firm, and the sauce was very rich, and praised Takai for her culinary skills. Takai thanked her and was glad that the dish was liked. He said that he was seriously considering adding this pasta to the menu. Himari noted that it would be simply wonderful, and also the dishes were very high quality and cute, definitely would please the visitors. Takai thanked for the feedback, and several berry rabbits approached her feet. Mary asked them if they also wanted to try, but Takai stopped me and said not to give it to them. He brought food for the berry rabbits while they looked at him with very cute eyes. It seemed so valuable to Takai that it was even a bit unfair. Mary asked him if these rabbits eat bari strawberries for breakfast. He nodded in response and turned to feed the rabbits. I looked at him once again while he placed food for the fluffy pets. And suddenly all the berry rabbits ran to the food. And they were so captivated by the food that they paid no attention to anything else. The berry rabbits were so cute when eating that he found it hard to look away from them. Takai said he never gets tired of watching this. And at the moment when you relaxed, Amir suddenly realized that he was completely captivated by the berry rabbits. She herself did not expect to be so fascinated by the berry rabbits, and only then realized how incredible their fluffiness was. Takai perfectly understood how she felt, because he himself sometimes felt something similar in cat cafes. He was constantly overworked, but still went to feed the cats, as they were very cute. Now, after a delicious lunch, the berry rabbits were resting, and Himari promised to come next time already as a customer. Himari's words pleased him, and he agreed that she could come whenever she wanted to enjoy the fluffiness. After that, she asked how much the food cost, but Takai replied that gratitude was the best payment. Isekai smiled and promised to help her when she got into trouble, as she was a brave adventurer. Takai felt calmer, and he said that he would definitely ask for help next time. She promised to do so, and then went on her way. I wish him to take care of himself. Now it was time to return to work. At first, he changed the menu and added pasta with meat sauce. Then he replenished the supplies so that he could cook even more. Then Luke turned to Takai with a request to make a steak against the dragon for him. Takai was delighted because Luke asked for something with a shy expression on his face. But Luca did not like being treated that way, and he told Takai not to offend him. Takai understood that Luca was probably hungry because he saw Himura eating pasta before. And he thought that maybe Luke felt lonely because he paid attention only to you, Mary. After this, calm days came to the fluffy café, and visitors began to come to it. Among them was a regular visitor emergent, who especially loved meeting with the white rabbit named Manaka. He ordered green tea and pasta. He was very relaxed and happy when he saw Monaco. And messages about training. Many berry rabbits gathered near the merchant. This does not happen often. She brought the order and thanked the merchant for his patience. Then the merchant admitted that he did not understand why the rabbits were gathering around him. He felt so ticklish that it seemed just a little more, and he would die laughing. And then the teacher notices something important. Then they asked if the merchant had anything in his breast pocket. The merchant replied that yes, there were a few sample cookies there. And suddenly the berry rabbits confirmed that the cookie exists and pounced on it. The merchant was very surprised by this. And Takai told him that according to the rules, you cannot give food to the fluffies from outside, and the merchant apologized, saying that he did it unintentionally. The merchant felt extremely good because of the berry rabbits that were on him. And to avoid sharing, he simply ate all the cookies himself. All the berry rabbits froze in place as if they were petrified. Takai asked them if they were really that hungry, and he decided to prepare a snack for them and watch over them a little. He saw how all the rabbits were running away from the poor merchant, and he was left very upset. Shortly after that, Takai closed the shop, and also talked with Luke about how to make life better for him and the berry rabbits. Luke liked that he was trying to improve something for them, but he noted that the most important thing for them is their food and the conditions in which they are kept. Also, Luke definitely mentioned that the sack bag is the best. Takai really liked this cute scene. Then he looked at Bari's rabbits and wondered whether to take them out for a walk to get some exercise. But Rabbit Yajitka started jumping around, as if showing that he was very comfortable indoors. Takai suggested to Luke to run in the yard, but Luke refused because such a small yard was not interesting to him. Luke much preferred going hunting. How he imagined the train of thought in this situation. Takai promised to find time for Luke more often. Having said that, Luke went to rest to gather strength for training, and Taki stayed to solve the food issue. He began to prepare something from fresh strawberries and carrots. But then he noticed that he lacked ingredients. Among them was a moonflower. I decided to turn to the Tamer's Guild to learn more about it. So when he came to the guild, he was greeted by Shelty, who was worried that he hadn't come for a long time. She noticed that today Takai was without his tamed monsters, and Takai showed her that Luke was standing right behind him. But Shelty wanted to ask about Bari rabbits because she was surprised that Taki brought 10 Bari rabbits at once. Now Taki asked her where to get moonflowers, and Shelty showed him in a book what a moonflower looks like. It could only be gathered at midnight when there was a full moon in the sky. Taki became worried when she heard this. Then she said that they can also be bought at the market. She said that they are sold in magic shops, and the nearest such shop is only 5 minutes walk from here. Taki almost forgot that he was in another world, so the presence of magic shops here was quite natural. Shelty asked if he planned to cook something with it, since it is a rare ingredient that is usually not used by tamers or cafes. Taki said that he was thinking of preparing a snack for his family, and this reminded her that he has culinary skills. She felt a little jealous when she saw that moonflowers are used as ingredients. Now Taki thanked Shelty for her help and set off for the magic shops. Taki quickly reached the magic store and saw a large store that looked as if it was only for the nobility. He did not know if they would let him into the store along with Luke, and Luke did not want to wait outside at all. At that very moment, Himari appeared and greeted Takai. She asked what he was doing here in the magic shop. Then Takai explained everything to her. Himari suggested waiting here together with Luke, and he thought that would really help, but he didn't want to bother her. I am sure everything was fine, since last time he helped her, so this time she wanted to repay him. To accept your offer and join the team. But Luke was clearly very angry about it. Takai asked him to stay here for a while, and they suggested giving him an even bigger poof as a reward. Luke was convinced by this, and he decided that in that case it could not be carried out. He left, promising to return quickly, and Himiri told him not to hurry. Entering the magic shop, Tashi saw various magical potions, tools, and many people around. But he quickly pulled himself together so as not to get distracted and not to make Luke and Himiri wait long. He looked over the prices of various magical herbs. They cost about 1,000 shells each. And finally, they found the moonflower, along with the moonflower. For one package, it was necessary to pay 10,000 shells. It seemed to him that this was not so expensive. And they wondered how many cookies can be baked from one flower. He had just left the magic shop after the purchase when he immediately saw stern Luke, from whom he became a little scared. He apologized to her for making her wait and asked if everything was all right. I replied that everything was fine because Luke is a very obedient boy, but Luke himself did not like such praise. Now it was time for Takai to return home, and Himiri joined to watch how he prepares the treats. Later in this house, Takai prepared all the ingredients and uses his culinary skills to cook delicious treats. In the end, he baked small cookies and packed them into small bags and counted them to control production costs and quantity. He was happy because he managed to make as many as 70 packs of cookies from that amount of ingredients. This means he will have to set the price at 40-50 shells per pack to recoup the money spent. He told him that now he would give the cookies to the rabbit's Bari, and she happily jumped up because she was entrusted to take the treats to them. But as soon as she took out the cookies, she ate one cookie herself instead. This makes Takai wonder why she did that. It turns out it was because of him that she couldn't resist. And also these cookies were very tasty. Takai also can't resist and decides to try one himself. And Kane with the swampflower rabbits also rushed to try them. I am very pleased when she says she will definitely distribute them. Then Takai, Herb, and Luke follow the scent. And asked to leave some cookies for him. Takai forgot to prepare the snack for Lu as well. Meanwhile, Himiri asked Luke if he wanted some too. Luke awkwardly nodded in response, and said that for now he would manage with cookies, since it was exactly what his subordinates ate. Taki notices that Luke might just be shy in communicating with other people, for example with Himiri, because he had been alone for so long. Takai smiled and said that she would personally give the cookie to Luke, and asked her to take care of the berry rabbits. Takai told Luke that these cookies were made from carrot, strawberry, and moonflower. Luke was surprised and asked why they didn't have meat. But when he tried the cookie, his ears suddenly perked up. And Luke admitted that these cookies were actually quite tasty. Takai was glad that he liked them. Then Luke asked for more cookies. Takai said that if you eat too many cookies, you might feel sick. But Luke said that everything would be fine because he was a real fencer, and after training, he would only keep himself in shape. Takai had to agree. But Luke was so impatient that he even pressed his lips to Teki's hand. Meanwhile, Jamira was treating the berry rabbits with cookies. She was simply delighted with this cute picture. And every time she gave them a cookie, other Gary rabbits looked at her expecting her to say something more. And Hamaru could not resist their cute eyes looking at her like that. Takai and Himiri gladly treated the fluffies with cookies. Add cookies in the shape of bunnies, 300 shells per package. The next day, a company of adventurers visited the café, Aries, Grizz, and Ninya. Then Gris noticed the new menu with cookies in the shape of bunnies. Takai proudly told him that now they can also treat the berry rabbit with cookies. So Gris and Nina quickly ordered a package each, and Aries decided to just drink black tea for now. And when Nana suggested she try it too, Iri replied that she was fine as it was. The Menete noticed that, although Iri says otherwise, she always comes with them to the cafe. Now Takai warned Gris in advance that Bari Rabbits was going to attack him because of those cookies. But he could not have imagined how quickly and mercilessly those cute berry rabbits would pounce on him. The manatees were upset that the time when Tim fed them ended so quickly. She would gladly give one cookie at a time. Owen watched as they fed the berry rabbits. A few days later, Takai saw Aries come to the cafe by herself. She said she wanted to quietly drink tea and rest. She assured that she had no other intentions, for example, to pet the rabbits. Ordinary black tea and candies, and also the fact that no one else was in the cafe, calmed her. She was reading a book. throwing a glance at the berry rabbits. And Saint Nicholas is angry that you came with her order. She ate a chocolate bar and enjoyed her favorite black tea. After that, she asked Takai with interest where he got this black tea, as it had an incredible aroma. Takai apologized and explained that he bought it through a mutual friend. Aries realized he could not talk about it, so the girl apologized for the inconvenience and returned to her tea. Then Tatsi took a rabbit with a brown coat, resembling a berry, into her hands, and placed her on Aris's lap, which surprised her greatly, and she said she came here just to read. Takai told her that everything was fine and informed her that this brown rabbit's name was Choco. Perry noticed that her name was similar to the name of favorite candies, and she seemed to smile involuntarily as if she liked it. Taechai noticed this and gave her some personal space. Oven also noticed that Teki understood she does not like it when others look at her. She petted Choco, and I wondered if others feel just as good. Suddenly Choco licked her finger and she got scared. She decided that it was probably because of the smell of chocolate that Arias had eaten earlier. She thought that next time she would try to give him a cookie. After that, when it was time to close the shop, Taechai closed the door and was very pleased with how much people liked the new sweets he had made. Luke reminded him that it was time to exercise, so Teki agreed to go. But after just a few seconds, he began to regret his joke, because Luke was going so fast that he simply couldn't keep up with him. Luke reminded him that he had promised to do everything properly, and Taechai himself hadn't thought it would be so difficult. Although he noticed that Luke was very happy now. That is, he will not stop at all. At that moment, Luke noticed a dragon in front of them, and he said that he wants to get dragon steak again. Takai was surprised to see how huge the dragon was, and asked Luke if he really intended to kill that dragon. Luke just smiled and replied, "The dragon looks tasty, so why not?" He asked Takai to wait a little while he himself would go and defeat the dragon. Luke instantly switched to hunting mode and released a lunar cut of wind straight into the dragon's neck. Takai got so carried away with the name of this technique that he completely got distracted. He regretted missing the moment when Lup so easily cut off the dragon's head. Takai thought again that he was incredibly lucky to work together with Luke. At that moment, Luke approached Taka and asked her to prepare a dragon steak for him. "Here you have already prepared a dragon steak." And Luke gladly ate the delicious meat as he wished. Then he asked Luke if people could eat dragon meat. To this, Takai replied that everything was fine, and dragon meat is actually a very high-quality ingredient for people. In that case, you have already tried to do something. His eyes lit up as soon as he tasted this luxurious, incredibly delicious steak. He noted that Luke turned out to be even stronger than he thought, so he is very glad that Luke became his first partner in this world and now even lives with him in Konbini. The Luke turned as if ashamed and said that he goes to this cafe only because there is a comfortable poof. Pechai noticed how Luke got nervous. His tail kept twitching. After that, they happily ate the steak together. However, they did not even suspect that ahead they would have to face a formidable monster. It all started when one day Himari entered the cafe very tired, barely keeping her eyes open. And Takai took her order for cookies and hot black tea. But when he brought the orders, he saw that he was already married, barely standing on his feet from exhaustion. He created a blanket, using his magic to cover Gimri and give her the opportunity to sleep as long as she wished. When she suddenly woke up, he greeted her with a smile. Gimri thanked him for allowing her to sleep. When she asked how long she had slept, he replied that about 2 hours had passed. I was very surprised because she only wanted to rest a little, but ended up falling asleep. Take some chocolate for your boss to lift his spirits. After that, she quickly left because she was in a hurry somewhere. Takai thought that she probably had a difficult job. And after a few hours, in the evening, regular adventurers came to Tassi and asked if he was already closing. Takai informed them that there were still 30 minutes left until closing, after which they quickly started playing with Bari Rabbit. Takai then asked them if something was happening with the adventures. Since Mashinu was more tired than usual, Grison 9 us began to worry. And they informed Keikai that nearby in the forest, a servo over 3 meters long had appeared. Tahai did not pay much attention to this, since he had already once encountered a bumper. But then Gris and Nina quickly explained to him how serious it was if Cerberus appeared. They say that once Cerberus just sneezed and completely destroyed an entire city. That is why this monster is considered a real disaster. Takai was scared when he realized how dangerous it was and began to worry about what would happen if that monster attacked the city. No one had previously realized how serious this threat was, but now he understood it. She told him that right now Cerberus seemed not to be coming out of the ruins, but then realized she had shared secret information and asked him not to tell anyone about it. Takai advised her not to scatter such secrets just like that. She explained to him that the Adventurers Guild hides this information so as not to cause panic, which could spread to neighboring countries. Now Takai understood why Heimer looked so tired. Gris said that although Cerberus himself had not appeared, his presence was felt very strongly, and now they understand why they cannot defeat him. But they also cannot just leave everything as it is, so the guild is now assembling a team of experienced adventurers who will go on a raid in the coming days. Then Gris realized that it was already late for them, but Nana still did not want to leave because she was already tired. Then Takai invited them to stay for dinner. He wanted to thank adventurers like them, because it is thanks to them that people like him can live peacefully. Gris and the team appreciated Takai's generosity, and they did not miss the chance to pet the rabbits once more during this extra time. Nain threw the ball, and Manaka brought it back. While Gris was petting one of the berry rabbits on his lap, they had already grown attached to these creatures, even though they were also monsters. And at that very moment, Takai brought the dinner and served them dragon steak, corn soup, salad, and soft, fresh bread. Luke immediately jumped up when he smelled the dragon meat and immediately began eating his portion. Luke was a bit surprised, seeing for the first time how he was being fed right in front of everyone. Moreover, he and the others could not resist and decided to try this luxurious steak. They asked him what kind of meat it was, but Takai could not simply say that it was dragon meat. They tasted the meat and said they had never eaten such a delicious steak before. Even the bread was very fluffy. Takai was glad that the guests liked the dinner, and after tea they set off home. Luke asked Toggy if they had left, and only after confirmation. He told Tekai that they needed to go exercise. Tekai became worried and suggested it would be better not to go outside. After all, there was a danger now because of Cerberus. Luke called Teki stupid because he believed that Cerberus could not compare to him in strength. So he immediately took Takai outside to show him his strength. Takai asked Luca if he was really sure about this, to which Luca confidently replied that Cerberus was a trifle to him. Later, Luke felt the presence of Cerberus and said that Tija was moving in the right direction towards them. Tija asked how he knew that, and Luke said that he was strong enough to feel the presence of Cerberus. The teacher said that adventurers might be nearby, so they needed to be careful. Luke understood that he meant Teichai. He smeared something red on Takai and pointed out where the nearest adventurers were located. Luke did not care whether the adventurers would see him fighting Cerberus, so he boldly went inside and started working loudly, as if calling Cerberus to come out to meet him. And everything happened exactly as he had predicted. The waiter really came out, and as in the legends, he had 3 heads. Kara was truly very angry and wild, just as they said about him. And Teichai was sure that this was even scarier than the dragon they had seen earlier. However, Lude bravely faced Cerberus and was not afraid at all. At that moment, Teichai noticed how the adventurers hurried to inform the guild about this. Then the servers charged the magic spheres and the attacking loop, but the loop dodged by jumping. When he hit Cerberus with his moon claws, he flew far away. But complete defeat was still far off. Teichai was worried about Luke, as Cerberus was much stronger than they had expected, and he wondered what would happen even if they defeated this creature. At first, he thought it could be eaten, but then he doubted it. The teacher noticed that the fur of that surgist was unusually fluffy, so he stretched out his hand, and as a result, I managed to tame him in an instant. Luke got angry because Takai stood in his way. Takai apologized and said that he could not help with anything, and then he heard Cerberus barking. Now the great Churas became a small cute puppy with 3 heads. He calls Takai his master and asks him to catch him. Takai caught not only Cerberus, and he could understand his words. This means that he managed to successfully tame him. Takai felt as if he would now soar to the heavens from this pleasant sensation. And then the 3 heads of Cerberus asked him to come up with names for them. After that, Taki began to name them from left to right. The left side is empty, there is nothing there. The middle one is Pio, and on the right is Chloro. Taki lifted them, and with a smile noted that they had become smaller and fluffier than before. Pino said that this was much better because it allowed them to be closer to Taki. Taki noticed that they had wounds. At first, he used healing magic to help them, which worked only on his tamed monsters. The surgeon was glad that he had already recovered and thanked Taki, saying that he was cool. but Luke was a little upset because his wounds healed so quickly. Taki was glad that the pain was gone, and Cerberus also felt better. Takai hugged him simply because she found it cute. Then Luke told him that they needed to hurry because those adventurers they had fought earlier might wake up soon. Takai remembered that those adventurers had fainted during the fight. So at first, he took these valuable things to a safe place. After this, Takai pondered what to do with Cerberus now. The next day, you woke up and saw Cerberus sleeping next to him. He remembered how he had brought them home before. And when he looked around, he noticed Luke. And nearby rabbits sleep peacefully, curled up on their soft pillows. Luke was pleased to see how many fluffies were sleeping in the morning. He really wanted to ask Cerberus when he woke up why he was near the ruins. He remembers how Cerberus said that they would no longer be lonely, so probably it was very hard for them to live alone for a long time. He petted Cerberus and noticed that one of his heads had awakened. He apologized for waking him up. Then the teacher noticed that only one head had woken up, Nal. Noel told him that although they had one body, each head thinks separately. Takai asked Noel if it was okay that he brought them here, and he replied that it was fine. They were constantly hiding because people were hunting them everywhere. According to him, those ruins were their last refuge. Maybe this will help you feel relief when you hear it, because he could help them by taming them. The other one lying on the right, named Chloro, also woke up and said that he felt much better here. And he had always dreamed of meeting good people like Takai. Takai became sad because of how much they had to endure. And when he completed these tasks, he was very happy to have been able to meet Cerberus. He stood up and promised himself to definitely protect them, then told Cerberus to wait while he brought breakfast. After some time, he opened a cafe. And the first visitors were Gris and his team, who were very tired after being called this morning for an urgent matter. They decided to quickly drop by Takai to look at the fluffies. And Takai somewhat recognized his past in this situation, when he also had to come to work earlier than everyone else. He told Gris and the others that since they were regular visitors, he would treat them to free bunny cookies for feeding the berry rabbits. Immediately energy appeared on their tired faces and everyone cheered up. Takai informed them that from today they had a new family member. Gris was very happy about this news, but when Takai called Pino, Chloro, and Noel, she was a bit surprised. The travelers simply froze in amazement and could not say a word. They quickly began examining the three-headed dog. Discussing among themselves, they noticed that this dog was very similar to the guardian they were looking for, but it was hard for them to believe that he was right here. They learned that Cerberus suddenly disappeared from the ruins, and there were rumors that he fought a large wolf-like monster. Gris said that according to the guild's research, the Cerberus was probably killed, so this dog was likely his descendant. Finally, Harry thought that perhaps Cerberus sacrificed himself to protect his child. And everyone agreed with her that it was exactly so. And finally, Gris added that someone had to learn to pass by and tame that Cerberus, not even knowing that it was a Cerberus puppy. Nina said that Takai seemed mysterious because he had a lot of acquaintances. But in the end, they decided that everything was fine because the training managed to handle it and nothing could be changed anymore. Takai asked them if they had finished the conversation, and they agreed. Then Takai brought food for Luke, Cerberus, and the others. He fed Luke and Cerberus, while the other adventurers took care of the berry rabbits. And now with another member joining the family, the fluffy cafe was, as always, cozy and calm. Meanwhile, the guild leader, Himari, was searching the forest for the place where Cerberus disappeared. Other adventurers asked her if it was possible that Cerberus had already been killed. She did not want to admit that it could disappear so easily, as she really wanted to see it with her own eyes. But now it was time for them to return, and Himari decided to take a slightly different path. While she was on the road, she came across a group of orcs who noticed her, and they were clearly hostile to any attacks at any moment. But in Gamiri, there was no time to waste, and she thought that Kahilna was just feeding the berry rabbits. So she quickly used her cyclone magic to quickly crush those orcs and not spend much time here. After she dealt with them, the girl sighed and wished that these monsters were as cute as those berry rabbits. Now she returned again on the road to the Fluff Cafe, and it was there that she greeted Takai when she arrived. Tahai noted that she was probably very busy. She replied that she had almost finished all her work. Now she came to play with the berry rabbits. But she was surprised that right in the fluffy cafe, she saw a surgeon. Seeing that she froze in place, Takai asked what happened. He told her about the newcomers in the cafe, Fluffy, Pino, and Chloronola. He hoped she would make friends with them, but she was so impressed that she couldn't say anything. Then she asked what she wanted to drink, and she ordered black tea. While Takai went to pick up the order, Himiri thought that the only simple creature with 3 heads and 1 body was probably Cerberus. This means that no matter how she looked at it, the Cerberus was now in the fluffy cafe. She even became interested in getting to know him. So she sat down, looking a little confused, and tried to touch Cerberus's fur. She was very impressed by Cerberus's fluffy fur, and she looked at him with admiration. She remembered hearing that some monsters can change size after being tamed. She really wanted to see such a monster with her own eyes. And of course, Cerberus is a completely different level than a berry rabbit. This means that an ordinary tamer could never tame a monster of Cerberus's level. It turns out Takai is one of the best tamers in this world. She wondered who this Takai really was, but it was impossible to find out. She noticed that she was looking at him from there. Just smile and turn to look at Luke. He brought black tea for Eric. She decided that under no circumstances did she want the fluffy cafe to close, so she was ready to use her guildmaster powers to secretly help Takai if something happened to him. The next day, when it was already time to close the cafe, Luke, along with others, woke Takai up to eat. Meanwhile, Takai dreamed about how he would become the favorite of all the fluffies. Luke got angry and pressed on Takai, forcing him to get up immediately. After Takai served the food, he pondered what to do today and remembered that he had been in this world for a long time, yet still knew very little. So today, he decided to visit the Guild of Tamers. When he arrived at the Writers' Guild, Shalti greeted him as always. Then Taki said he wanted to learn more about the Tamers, which is why he came here today. Shelty was very surprised that Taki knew so little about Tamers, even though he had many familiars. Taki explained that he was from a village, so he didn't know. In that case, she gave him a monster from the encyclopedia. There were also habitats of various monsters here. Takai examined the places where his monsters lived, while Cerner and Lu had no information at all. Takai was most interested in fluffy monsters, and at that very moment, his gaze stopped on something he definitely could not miss. He immersed his face in the book. He noticed inside a creature resembling a cat monster. Shelty told him that it was a forest cat, and Takai really wanted to learn more about it. So she told him that he would have to go to the forest in the neighboring country to find that forest cat. But if traveling by carriage, the journey would take about a month. Takai thought that if he wrote about Luke, he could get there faster than a month. Noticing his interested look, she said that the forest cat would definitely look cute in Takai's cafe. She gave him a map. After that, Takai immediately returned home to discuss everything with Luke. He called Luke and woke him up. Luke asked what could be more important than his comfortable sleep, and Takai replied that he wanted to go to the neighboring country. Luke remembered that the neighboring country was called the Kingdom of Azurion and asked why he wanted to go there. Takai replied that he wanted to tame the forest cat that lives in the forests of the Kingdom of Azurion. Cerberus was glad to learn that he would soon have more friends. Takai told Luke that ordinary crews would get there in about a month. Luke replied that this was if the crews were riding horses. They could not compare to the speed of the noble Fenrir himself, so he would deliver her there in an instant. He also offered Takai a ride on his back, but Takai hesitated a little because of the previous trip to Yist. Luke asked irritably what that expression on his face meant, and Taki replied that he was just very glad that Luke agreed to take him there. Sir Ursus also said that he wanted to go with them, and told Takai that he could also ride on his back, and Luke asked him not to interfere in their conversation. And they should listen to Luke, because they had lost him before. The waiters complained that they would be lonely staying at home. Then Luke came closer and told Cerberus that he wanted them to watch over the berry rabbits here, because he could only ask these questions when he and Luke left. Cerberus was delighted and began wagging his tail when they relied on him. Takai couldn't resist and touched the fluffy tail that was wagging happily. And operational interventions are liked when they are touched so gently. Takai also really liked the fluffy tail that waved next to his hands and cheek. Then Lu Gil advised to stay away from Taka and better watch over the house. Now Takai was worried about only one thing, food. After all, Cerberus cannot cook for everyone, so maybe he would have to hire someone temporarily to help with cooking. He went to the trade guild and inquired about the rules regarding increasing the number of workers. The administrators replied that they had not noticed anything unusual. He could ask the guild to help him make arrangements or look for people on his own. She thought it would be better for him to hire someone himself to make sure the new worker would treat the monsters well. It was then that Himri jumped up and immediately greeted him. And Takai was very glad that he accidentally met her. He told her that he was thinking about hiring workers for a short term. When she heard this, Himari immediately agreed, because she really wanted to be near the berry rabbits all the time. Takai did not even expect that she would like it so much. Then she, worried, asked Lei if she was good enough, to which he replied that it might be difficult for her while she was still a child. She told him that the reason did not matter, but Takai thought otherwise. And then he noticed another girl, similar to Himari, who worked in the flower shop. Himari told him that for her age, it was not at all unusual to run a store independently. And think about this, she believes that Takai will have few tasks. Takai was not worried either, because Luca was with him, who always caused the most trouble. So you asked her to follow him, and promised to tell her about the job at the cafe. Mari gladly followed Luke to the cafe. There he was warmly welcomed by the berry rabbits and Cerber. Himari was delighted when she imagined that she could have such an experience if she got a job here. After that, Taki informed her by phone that he was going to buy a new fluffy pet, so he would be gone for about 25 days. And Maria asked how he would tame it. To this he replied that he would tame a forest cat that lives in a neighboring country. I really liked this idea, because that cat was extremely fluffy. Gimari asked if this meant that her temporary job would last 25 days. Tekshai thought that was quite a lot for her, and Gimari was actually more surprised at how he managed to get to the kingdom of Asurum in just 25 days. Moreover, she told him that she had once already defeated a forest kappa, but then she did not touch its fur, so now she was eagerly looking forward to it. Now Takai told her that he would leave as soon as he married, learn the job. To this, Emery replied that she was currently free and not busy with any matters, so he could count on her. In this case, he promises to teach her the job until the very end, and also discuss the salary with her. He told her about the work schedule and payment. It would be 10,000 shells per day. Hamera replied that this was too much for such work. But Takai wanted to make sure he would pay enough so that his family would be well provided for. Mary promised to take good care of them, as she really liked all these acquaintances. After that, Tai taught her everything she would need to do when she worked at the fluffy cafe in an apron. This proves that she works at this cafe. Takai informed his friends that from today, Mary would join them. And then he told her exactly what she had to do. It started with checking the well-being of loved ones in the morning. You could simply see if they had energy. Himiri realized that monsters rarely weaken because they are already very strong. Then Takai invited her to follow him to show how to bathe familiars. He led her into the yard and showed a small shed. It turned out to be a shared restroom for all the servants. Takai told her that she could use the towel and other things there. And finally, he showed her the bathtub. Mari was very surprised when she saw the bathtub. Even for pets, it was unexpected. Then he showed her the taps from which hot water flows. She asked how it works. But Takai could not explain, so he simply apologized for using some technology from his country. It was then that Luke decided to take a bath and got into the water. Takai was glad when other pets joined him in the bath. Then he showed her how to wash properly. But Henry was surprised when he first saw how this monster bathes. Its fur became completely slicked down. Takai told her that for Iriska, it is normal to look like that after washing. After this, they need to be thoroughly wiped with a towel. I thought that her magic might be more convenient in this situation. So she used her wind magic and instantly dried the familiar's fur. I think you liked how quickly everything was done. After this, he taught her to work in the shop and serve customers, and at the same time to control the familiars. When he finished teaching her, Takai packed his things because it was time to move on. He told his assistants to stay here, watch the house, and keep an eye on everything during his absence, and informed Serderus that starting tomorrow morning, Himari would come to the shop. The waiters asked if they could just play with the visitors when they arrived, and the instructor nodded in response. Then he sat next to them to pet them and promised himself to definitely buy many souvenirs from the neighboring country. Then Petlia said, "Hurry up, we need to be faster." And he stood up to listen to the eccentric and patient Luke. He apologized to Luke for being delayed so long, and he said that he simply could do nothing with himself because he loved them all. Luke was confused when he heard this, so Takai was already ready to set off. The servers said goodbye to him and said they were waiting for his return. Takai climbed onto Luke to reach the next city before dawn. He wanted no one to notice them because Luke's true size could scare anyone. Takai promised Luke that he would protect him in any situation. Then Luke told him that he was weaker. Now he would protect Takai instead of someone else. Takai made sure that Luke could be relied upon as they continued their journey together at night. The next morning, the teacher noticed an incredibly beautiful sunrise in the mountains. And he felt so good because not much time had passed since he entered this world after living as an office worker who had almost no free time for himself. And if we are to talk about rest, Takai could visit the cat café only once a month during vacation. It happened when he accidentally met the god of cats. And after death, he found himself in another world, where he gained unique abilities and even managed to open his own café, Fluffy. Now he had regular visitors, and he enjoyed life managing the café with the help of convenient skills he received from the cat god. Now he was looking at the map of the kingdom of Asurum, where the forest cat lives. He thought that if he could catch this cat, he would become a true cat enthusiast. After that, Luke asked him to quickly climb onto his back so they could reach the nearest town in time and not have to spend the night outdoors. Takai was very grateful to Luke for his kindness and hugged his fluffy fur with sincere admiration. He thought it would be simply wonderful if he managed to catch the forest cat so quickly. But just at that moment, when Luke started running, Takai shouted that walking slowly was also fine. Luke called him a weakling for even suggesting to slow down, and said that when he runs fast, he feels better. Takai looked back at the beautiful landscape and said it was worth relaxing and just enjoying the view. Luke said that it was worth preparing some snacks for the break. And suddenly, a giant chicken attacked them from the side. Luke quickly took it off, and Takai hid it in his magic bag. That night, they stopped at a place from where Takai could see an incredible view of the starry night. Luke asked if it was really such a rarity for Takai. Takai nodded and said that where he lives, you don't see that often. Then Luke reminded him that it was already time to eat. Takai opened the package and began to prepare the meat, using his culinary skills. But then he realized that he lacked the necessary ingredients. Then Takai took several ingredients out of the bag. Then used the cooking skill again. Sim finished preparing a delicious dish from monster chicken meat. And they promised that he could take as much loot as he wanted. Luke said that he really liked the tasty food and praised his cooking skills because everything he makes always turns out delicious. Takai was pleased that Luke was satisfied. And then he decided to try it himself. Takai thought he could eat as many of these meat dishes as he wanted. After another journey, they reached the Magic City, which is located on the border between the kingdoms of Shulkut and Azurin. Takai entered the city and immediately noticed how many people were there, and it became clear what a pleasant and cozy place it was. Takai, I thought they first needed to find the Tamer's Guild, because they needed to stay where they would let Luke in too. When Luke noticed that Takai was looking at him, he asked what was going on. Takai replied that he was just admiring his magnificent fur. Luke was confused and began to justify himself, saying it was obvious because he was a renowned filler. Then Takai looked around. He still found a place to stay. Luke laughed at him, saying he was too tired and had become weak. Takai hoped he had enough strength to walk a little more with Luke. Then Luke asked him if he really liked forest cats that much. And suddenly Takai gained strength, and he began to tell how exactly cats help him stay alive. And even just the thought of petting a cat made him try even harder. Luke wonders what kind of battle he had in the past, and Takai can't resist and calls the company. Maybe you are curious about how the cats are doing now in the cat cafe. And he couldn't help but remember how fun it was when he played with them. At that moment, Luke stopped because he was making strange grimaces. For that, Takai apologized, but he still felt pleased by the touch of Luke's paw. Luke asked why he was smiling so foolishly. And Takai said it was all because Luke was simply cute. Luke objected that such a noble opponent as he could not possibly be cute. And he did not like at all that he was being equated to those berry rabbits. Takai told him that he could not rank cuteness because for him, all his familiars are equally cute. Luke turned away from him, and Takai noticed that Luke was actually shy, and he found it very cute again. Then Luke told him to go to bed immediately. Takai thought he was right and wished Luke good night. He promised himself that after waking up he would eat something tasty. Before sleep, he petted Lup. After some time, they walked around the city to see what products were available for cooking dishes. Luke asked if there was any dragon meat here, but Takai perfectly understood that it was impossible. So he asked Luke why they wouldn't try soup made from the tail of a wild minotaur. Takai took 2 bowls of soup, one for himself and the other for Luke. He really liked the taste. Luke also agreed that the costume looked cool. After that, Takai suggested looking a bit more for other tasty meat. Later, he stood in line at the border to enter the kingdom of Asurun. Luke asked why they didn't just climb over the walls. To this, Takai replied that everything must be done properly because he didn't want to stand out, but just quietly run the cafe, Fluffy, together with Cerberus. When his turn came, Takai noticed how the guard was surprised to see Luke. But he reacted normally to this, even praised his colleague. Luke was pleased with this short conversation near the gates. Takai introduced himself to the guards as a Tamer, and showed his guild card to prove it. The guards let him through the gates, making sure he was indeed registered as a Tamer. And Takai was glad that this time Luke did not cause any problems. The guards asked him to be careful, and now Takai was fully ready to meet the forest cats of this blue kingdom. Taechai set off for the town of Fallen, located in the great forest of the kingdom of Asuran. There he saw many toys in the form of wolves and other characters, and Takai really liked these works. He asked Luke if he thought these things were also well made. One of them even looked like Luke. Luke shouted not to be confused with these weak wolves. Then Takai explained that he only meant the appearance. The seller asked Takai if her favorite had any problems with these toys, and Takai apologized and returned the toys due to the inconvenience. The seller said that everything was fine, and he immediately understood this when he did the carving, because he himself had seen a wolf. But Takai's familiar is a much stronger monster, so they cannot be compared. Hearing this, Luke rejoiced, and then the seller remembered that he had heard about tamers who can talk to their familiars. He asked to teach you to listen to this, and you replied that you already understand what the monsters are talking about. And now his partner was really angry because he was acquainted with those wolves. The seller asked him if he had just arrived in this rundown town, and Takai nodded in response. So the seller advised him to go on the road to the right, and there he would come across an inn called Forest Cat. His Highness noted that from the name one might think that forest cats live there, but he was worried whether they would allow familiars there. The seller assured him that everything would be fine, since this place is managed by an experienced tamer. Takai was grateful for such support. Luke was also pleased that they could stay together and finish everything together with him. Takai followed the instructions and finally reached the inn Forest Cat. There he was warmly welcomed by the owner of the establishment, who managed the reception. Takai asked if he could stay here together with his pet, and the owner agreed, and said that he would immediately prepare a spacious room for him. Taki thanked him for the promptness and understanding. And suddenly he saw a real forest cat who brought him the keys to the room. Taddy was stunned with surprise. The host introduced the forest cat as his acquaintance. He said that sometimes his younger sister helps him, but mostly he manages on his own, so sometimes he turns to acquaintances for support. Takai realized that this was a real cat hotel and thanked the cat god for being here. The owner was surprised by Takai's reaction. Then Takai said that he came here to tame forest cats. The owner was surprised and asked why he would want to tame forest cats at all. They were not very strong and could not do magic, so Taki said directly that he simply liked their soft fur. Hearing this, the guy was very surprised, but then Takai explained to him what fluffiness was. And he also noticed it. He called Tessie an interesting person, and then introduced himself as Arts, the tamer and owner of this tavern. Tessie also introduced himself in response. After this, Arts remembered that he used to be an adventurer, but he never managed to become strong, so he had to take over this shop from his parents. Since forest cats were the only monsters she could tame, thanks to his weak taming skills, her powers were insufficient to join the group of other adventurers. Keikai imagined how all this happened, since cats are not that strong. While Arts was talking, Luke was watching the forest cat. At the end, Arts remembered that his hotel also had problems. Business was going as badly as his adventuring life. Takai couldn't believe it, since even cats lived nearby here. Archer hinted that there was some shameful story connected to this. But still, he promised to do everything possible to help Takai while he was here. Takai was glad for such a warm reception. He thought that people in this world did not value small animals at all, perhaps because they were monsters. But he was sure, if they found out how cute these creatures were, they would definitely love them. Moreover, these cats were here now only to help Arts with work, not to entertain visitors. He wondered, what if cats started playing with customers? Since there was a possibility that this could become truly popular. Then Arts told Takai to follow him to his room. But suddenly Takai asked Arts and allowed him to speak. Why not make a space here where people could communicate with cats? Arts was surprised by such inspired ideas from Takai. Cats gained a reputation as a true world treasure, since they have big innocent eyes, fluffy fur, and a beautiful, slender figure. And they could also admire the flowers growing right on their bodies. It was simply incredible. Arts had already started sweating. Meanwhile, Takai was putting him to sleep for a long time with various ideas about cats. Luke began to get bored and asked Tashi what he was going to do. Because no matter how cute those cats were, they still remained monsters, and it was hard for people to just accept them. Takai said he had a secret plan for this, and he was confident that everything would work as well as with his cafe. Taki used his ability to come up with and make a toy for the cat. Luke asked what it was, and Takai tried to wave it in front of Luke, but nothing happened. Then he decided to try it on the cats, so first he went to ask Arts for permission. Then you smelled a pleasant scent, and you are already waiting for dinner. Arts, who was preparing dinner, saw Takai and asked if he needed any help. Taichai showed him the thing he made and asked Arts if it was okay to play with the cats with it. At that moment, the forest cat looked at Takai and Nuda. This made his heart melt because the cat was so cute. Taichai quickly noticed that the more he twirled the toy, the more forest cats gathered around. And he had to endure, restraining his hands from the cats because he did not want the cats to hate him. Then he threw the toys for the cat to the favorite and noticed that the cat began to take an interest in them. Then Taichai put the toy back in place and decided that this teaser for the cat should work. And as he thought, the cat immediately began to play with the cat toy. And he gladly taught you, hoping that this teaser would make them joyfully pounce on it. Arts watched from the side and was delighted as he saw for the first time how his cats played so joyfully. Taichai also said that he saw for the first time how the cats were so happy with his teaser toy. In that case, Taichai was already set to play a lot with the cats. And in these touching moments, Taichai decided to make even more toys for the cats. Later, already in his room at the hotel, Taichai was examining the cat toy when Luke noticed it. He looked a bit untidy. This surprised Takai a little, but he couldn't stop smiling strangely. He decided to make more toys to play more often with those forest cats. Then he asked Luke if forest cats could talk. To this, Luke replied that forest cats, even tamed ones, cannot be taught to speak. But if you think differently, if there is a pack of forest cats, their leader must definitely be able to speak. Takai realized that he would have to tame a whole pack of forest cats to find the one who can talk. This reminded him of a conversation with the cat god, who could also speak. Tahai again pondered how she would communicate with cats. Then Lup brought him back to reality and asked if he was going to make toys right away. Takai did not object. And then, very sluggishly, Takai wondered if Luke felt lonely because of him. And since it looked like it was needed, he decided to do something for Luke as well. Using his creation magic, he made a flying table for him. Luke noticed this too. He asked Takai what it was, and Takai replied that he made this flying disc to play with Luke. However, he noted that they would have to go to a more spacious place. Hearing this, Luke said that he usually wouldn't engage in something so childish as games, but since Takai tried so hard and made it himself, Luke didn't mind trying. And Takai saw that Luke really wanted to play, and it looked cute in its own way. Now first, let's take a few more cat toys, for example, a ball with bells and a tunnel. He hoped that the forest cats would be happy with these gifts. And when he threw the ball in front of the cat, it immediately ran after it and started playing with it with curiosity. Pachai liked it so much, he thought it was very cute. But then Luke told him to go play with the flying disc faster. Takai agreed and said they would go right now. At that moment, Arts heard some sounds, came over, and saw that his cats were playing happily. He didn't even suspect that his cats could play like that, and he was pleased to see how much they enjoyed it. Then Takai told Arts that buyers could try throwing these balls, and the cats would happily play with them. Takai apologized because he needed to go play with Luke, as Luke was already in a hurry. Artem asked if he could also try throwing the ball, and the teacher approved the idea with a nod. And he also remembered the tunnel he made for the forest cats so they could play. Arts was grateful to have a client like Takai, and Takai replied that, on the contrary, he was pleased to meet Arts himself. And now Luke Gason invites you to immediately try such a cool thing as a flying disc. Luke led Takai to an open area with meadows after they passed through the forest. Takai thought it was a very cool place, and he would like to bring lunch here and spend time with acquaintances. But Luke interrupted his thoughts and asked how they used this flying disc. Takai saw that he was very excited, and he asked Luke to wait a moment. Then he threw the flying disc and waited for it to fly a little. Then Taichai asked Luba to catch the disc he threw. It was such a game. Lip's face showed that he did not understand at all what it was about. And Taichai felt awkward when he realized that no one here even knew this game. He asked Luca to try first, and then he would understand for himself how fun it was. Luca agreed to try. And then you throw the flying disc. But it almost immediately stopped thanks to the cycle. Taichai could not say a word because he had never thought before how strong Luke was when throwing the disc. Luke himself said that this game was too easy. All Tachi felt defeated. After that, Taichai decided to change the plan and asked Luke to catch the disc only when it was about to fall. Taichai explained the rules of the game once again, and although Luke was still a little confused, he was ready to try to do as Taichai explained. Luke asked Taichai if it would be cooler if he caught it just before it fell to the ground. Taichai replied that it would definitely be more fun. He throws the disc again, and this time both Taki and Luke waited until Taki gave Luke the signal to catch. Luke relied on his intuition and agility to quickly get up, and caught the flying disc just before it could fall. Luke, as always, impressed with his agility. And Taki thought that Luke was probably holding back a lot when he was sitting on his back. Now Luke threw the disc back, and Taki praised him for managing it on the first try. He knew that Luke was really good, although sometimes spoke sharply. And just a few seconds after Luke asked him to throw it further, Taki throws the flying disc again. But this time the disc accidentally flew a very short distance. It was very easy for Luke to catch it. Luke looked mockingly as if asking, "Is that all you can do?" Taki apologized for the bad throw. Then Luke asked him if it was hard to throw. Taki said that throwing was easy, but making it fly far was much harder. Luke himself tried to throw the disc, but it fell literally a meter away from them. Lucas's pride did not allow him to give up. So he threw the disc again, as best as he could. And this time things went very far. About 100 meters from here. Lup said it was easier than you think. Takai thought that Luke should find it easy, since he is very strong. Then Luke asked Takai to bring it, because this time he was tired. Takai joked that he couldn't do it because he was too weak. They played a little more. You return to the hotel tired, but suddenly you hear the voices of some girls. Takai wonders who else could have come here. And he saw that the girls were playing with forest cats with his toy cars, which he made himself. Takai realized that toys for cats had become more popular than he expected. Arts happily greeted Tatesy and said that everyone really liked the cat toys. Then one girl asked her brother Arts if it was Tatesy himself who made these toys. Arts nodded and introduced his sister Lucy, and she added that she now works both as a traveler and, together with her brother, manages a hotel. Takai also introduced himself to Lucy. And then Lucy introduced her to two more of her friends, Marilia and Bianca, who were also adventurers. We cannot help but say how much she enjoyed playing with the cute forest cats, and Bianca no longer wanted to fight with such wonderful creatures. Taki agreed that the forest cats are very cute. He looked back at the forest cats, who were now using the tunnel he had dug earlier. He realized that where visitors can communicate with forest cats, things are going well. Therefore, it is worth making this project even more cat-oriented. He thought that probably it was not worth letting the cats just roam around the guest rooms. Maybe he should make a cat tower for them. For this, Takai found the perfect free spot on the wall, and asked Lucy if it was possible to make a cat tower from boards on this wall. He explained to her that this place is like a zone where cats can climb and rest, since forest cats like to be at height. Lucy nodded and agreed that they could make something similar, and said that she also wanted to help organize it. Lucy said that they have some wood in the warehouse, so it can be used to create stairs along the wall. Pedia asked if changes could be made so easily. To this, she replied that there was nothing to worry about. She was ready to do whatever was necessary to ensure their completion went well. She also did not consider being an adventurer so convincing, so she wanted to work a little more at the end. Tate saw that she really liked this hotel left by her parents. Therefore, he decided to respect her feelings and help more. Lucy was happily playing with a cat toy. Then Arts King approached Lucy and said that he decided to make this establishment a place where visitors could communicate with forest cats. So this meant that Arts would not mind if Takai wanted to hang the board himself. This suited Takai, and he was very happy for the opportunity to bring to life even more ideas similar to his fluffy cafe, where people could interact with monsters. Arts sincerely thanked Takai for everything he had done for him and promised to visit his cafe when the hotel became successful. Artem extended his hand to thank and show his friendship, and Takai gladly agreed and was already waiting to help with the art while under care. Later, he went to the storeroom in the backyard, where Lucy was preparing wooden boards for the shield. Takai praised her for the well-done work, and Lucy replied that she was responsible for storing the wood, so she had considerable experience in this matter. That is why she wanted to do most of the work herself, rather than put all the duties on their guest. Takai appreciated her care and understood that they had been through a lot during this time. Lucy admitted that she had always dreamed of becoming an adventurer, but when she fulfilled her dream, she began to worry. Tate said he understood her feelings, because on missions you constantly feel a threat to your life. He asked her if she planned to watch the same adventure all her life, but she replied that she had not thought about it yet. Lucy smiled, dreaming of finding some treasure during adventures to make life easier for her brother. Takai was touched to see her so responsible. When they finished making the boards, they started finishing the cat complex. Luke slept well. Meanwhile, Lucy and Taichai finally managed to attach all the boards in the form of stairs. Takai liked how everything turned out, and Marilia asked Lucy if she had always been a better carpenter than an adventurer. Lucy scolded her for that. While Arts went to check the boards, we looked so good that even the cats wanted to lie on us. He turned around and asked his forest cats if they wanted to try it. And the forest cards immediately rise on the game field. And everyone sat on them, as if on figurines of cats that bring luck. Other cats follow the one sitting on the highest board to rest there too. But this made them compete with each other for first place. Lucy got angry seeing those cats sitting angrily on the boards. And Takai told her not to touch them for now. The artists clapped their hands to call all the cats. And they obeyed the order and came down from the platform. Takai was delighted to see that these forest cats were not only cute, but also very lively. He was in such a good mood that he wondered if he could fall asleep today. Then Arts informed everyone that it was time for dinner. He also invited Marilia and Bianca to join them and try the stew. Hart served stew to all guests. During lunch, they had a pleasant conversation. Lucy says that maybe she can handle everything herself if she uses those toys for cats. Takai noticed that Lucy is good at making toys for cats, and now he helped her start this business. Takai can no longer wait to see how cool this place will become when he comes here next time. For now, he decided to first tame his forest cats. The next morning, he set off to the forest, and Luke noticed that they would manage faster if they had some tasty bait. Takai reminded him that they came to tame forest cats, not to hunt them. Luke knew that, but actually he hoped to catch a dragon as well, as they say, killing two birds with one stone. Takai decided that Luke really deserves another dragon steak, because without his help, he wouldn't have made it here, although Takai would like Luke to help him tame the forest cats without harming them. At that moment, Luke asked if they should go further into the forest. Takai said they should search here a little more because forest cats should be weak and easy to tame, so they probably don't hide far in the forest. However, even after a long search, they failed to find anything. Takai did not meet a single forest cat, although it was strange, because Art said that there were many such cats in the forest. Pahai was surprised and wondered if they had mistaken the forest. He decided to figure everything out himself, so he opened his status and used the skill search function. This could help find out where the forest cats are located. Luke noticed that Taki was doing something and asked what exactly. Taki replied that he was just checking one skill to find out if he could use it to find forest cats. Luke was surprised when he noticed that Takai had some special abilities, but Takai himself did not suspect whether it was a rare talent. Then he noticed that thanks to this skill, he could see where the forest cats were. Takai was amazed at how accurately and simply the ability to find them worked. He warned Luke that ahead of them awaited a group of forest cats. Luke noticed something strange because he did not receive their gifts. Then he focused again and realized that there were strong enemies nearby. It was because of them that the forest cats were afraid and did not come out of their hiding places. Takai thought it would be bad if Luke said there were even stronger monsters, but at that moment, Luke suggested immediately giving him something to eat. The offer, unexpectedly made by another, simply shocked Takai. And he asked Luke if it was really safe, since earlier he said that these monsters are very strong. Luke exclaimed that he is worthy of Fenrir and never loses to any opponent. Luke explained that he meant a strong monster as a formidable enemy if seen through the eyes of a forest cat. Now they will follow him and overcome him. By Tsuihou, he meant that you have to ride on him. So he asked Luke to be more careful. But even Luke's slow pace was too fast for Pordesi. After covering some distance, they saw the monster they had to defeat. And it turned out to be a giant raven. Luke said that the giant raven is a cowardly monster that attacks only those weaker than itself. Takai asked if Luke could reach this monster, and Luke confidently nodded that it was not a problem. So he asked Takai to hold on tight, and he himself jumped up to attack the giant flying raven. The raven got scared and suddenly rushed at them with an attack. Balak easily dodged the attack, and instantly lunged at the weak raven with his shark-like sharp claws. Luke instantly defeated the raven and said that he does not tolerate monsters that constantly bully the weak. Luke asked Takai to put the body of this crow in his materials bag, and now Takai felt that Luke cared about him even more than before. At that very moment, Takai heard some sounds from the bushes. He got scared thinking it might be another crow, but Lup told him not to hide behind him out of fear because nothing threatened him with Lup. Takai noticed the place from where the sound came. A monster had lived there for 2 years, and from time to time cat meows could be heard. He was momentarily confused when he saw that behind the bushes was a pack of forest cats. Takai really wanted to pet the cat, she couldn't resist. Then he noticed that the cat was moving very weakly. This meant that she was weaker than usual now. Luke said that the cat had probably been hiding in a burrow for a long time because of the crow flying nearby. Hearing this, Takai immediately went to feed the cat. But he didn't know what to treat the cat with, as he wasn't sure what would be good for a weak cat. Luke suggested giving him some of those rabbit cookies. Takai slowly approached the cat and calmly offered him the cookie so as not to scare him. Takai assured the cat in his own way that the cookie was safe. The cat slowly sniffed and ate the cookie. It seems the cat felt a little better after eating. Takai thought that the cat was kind of approaching him as if it wanted to thank him. He became curious whether the cat liked him because all the fluffballs adored him. And still, it seemed that he could take this under his control. Takai tamed the forest cat by taking it by the paws and named it Sakura. And immediately after he took the cat in his arms, he couldn't resist and began to pet it even more because the cat was incredibly cute. Because of this, Luke scolded him again for that silly smile.